Let's talk about Bob Saget because something isn't adding up. So I am going to break down his coroner's report for you. So A and B are related. A is an abrasion to the posterior scalp, simple abrasion. B is bleeding underneath that abrasion. D is pretty significant. It is a skull fracture of the right occipital bone extending into the temporal bone. That is pretty hard to get. D is a comminuted fracture of the bilateral orbits, the roofs of the orbits, so this part up here above the eye. E is just describing bruising around the eyes from those bilateral orbital fractures. F is subdural hematoma, that is blood underneath the skull, kinda outlining the brain in this area right here. G is subarachnoid hemorrhage, that's bleeding kinda deeper, surrounding the lining of the brain. And H describes something called a counter-coup contusion. That's when he was hit in the back of the skull, which we know because of the occipital bone fracture, that the front of his skull, both the frontal lobes and the temporal lobes got bruised. All that is a significant amount of injuries for something that was a simple slip and fall. Also, it seems like he hit the back of his head given the skull fracture. And I don't know a lot of people who fall backwards. It's usually a forward fall. Lastly, he had no alcohol in his system, so that isn't to blame. And you can see by these many headlines that I am not the only one thinking that something isn't quite lining up.